Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on CBI News at noon. I am Motobo Nkanta. First, a look at what is making headlines at this hour. President Tinubu orders full probe into the fake government agency scandal. The Federal Executive Council moves to decriminalize attempted suicide. Governor Deleke announces a 500 million naira fund for victims of election violence in Osun. Liberia set to receive 1,200 deportees from the United States, and US and Canada push to finalize a major new trade deal. We have details on all of this and more when we return after this break. Thank you for staying with us. We begin with a major move from the federal government. President Bola Tinubu has ordered a forensic investigation into the alleged fictitious Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council (PFIPC). Minister of Finance Taiwo Oyedele disclosed this after Wednesday's Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja. He said the probe would also examine the government's payroll system amid concerns that non-existent agencies may have fake employees on the federal payroll. Still on the economy and government reforms, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Taiwo Oyedele, says the removal of petrol subsidies saved Nigeria 15.8 trillion naira between June 2023 and December 2025. Oyedele said the savings were reflected in resources available to the Federation, although they did not appear as a separate credit to the Federation account. According to him, the federal government received 5.4 trillion naira, while 10.4 trillion naira was shared among state and local government through the Federation account. The Federal Executive Council has approved an amendment to the National Mental Health Act to decriminalize attempted suicide in Nigeria. Minister of Health and Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Mohammed Pate, said suicide remains a major public health concern, with the World Health Organization estimating more than 7,000 deaths and about 300,000 suicide attempts annually. He said the amendment would replace colonial-era provisions that criminalize attempted suicide and threat people experiencing psychological distress as offenders rather than people in need of care and support. You're watching CBI News at noon from a studio here in Lagos. We will take a short breather now. When we return, we have stories from Lagos, Osun, and beyond. Stay with us. Welcome back now to Lagos, where the State Examinations Board has announced August 21, 2026 as the commencement date for the Common Entrance Screening Test. The examination will hold on Friday, August 21 to Monday, August 24, starting at 8 a.m. daily at the Public Service Staff Development Center in Magodo, Lagos. The board said registered candidates can now access the examination portal to print their slips and urged them to comply with all examinations rules and regulations. Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has announced measures to support families affected by electoral violence ahead of the August 15, 2026 governorship election. Speaking at a rally organized by the Osun Labour Movement after receiving his certificate of return from the Independent National Electoral Commission, Adeleke announced automatic scholarships up to university level for children and dependents of people killed during the election build-up. He also pledged to establish a 500 million naira election violence victims endowment fund to provide relief and support to verified victims and affected families. Retired Nigerian military personnel have staged a protest outside the Ministry of Defense in Abuja, demanding a pension adjustment linked to the recent salary increase for serving officers. The pensioners, some seated on their canopy at the protest site, displayed banners listing their demands. Access to the ministry headquarters was cordoned off, with armored personnel carriers stationed nearby. They say they are entitled by law to a consequential adjustment each time salaries are reviewed for serving personnel, an entitlement they claim was excluded in the latest computation. The salary increases for serving personnel was announced on November 25th last year, but the retirees say it is yet to reflect in their pensions, creating a disparity between recently retired officers and those who left service earlier.
Retirees. There is a constitutional provision also contained in the Armed Forces Act for consequential adjustment to retirees each time there is salary increase. They excluded us. That is what brought us here. And we have seen the computation they did is for serving personnel only. They excluded pensioners. So we are claiming our constitutional and legal rights to consequential increase. We tabled our issue, and he spoke in very understanding language, assured us they were included. They will immediately get across to our military pensions board, the authority that handles our pension, to compute it, and it will be included and processed. We are humans. We have to be reasonable. On that tone, we accepted the assured. If for any reason the payment starts and we're not included, we'll come back here reinforced.
The reason why we're here, in the respect of our entitlement, where federal government announced it since last year, November, but up to now, 2025, but up to now, nothing has been done. So the reason why we are here, if they didn't answer us or they didn't capture us on the next payment, we are coming back to this day. Then, as you can see now, our economy is here. We came here to come and stay, and people are more coming. Come and make peaceful protest. That's the reason why we are here.
The National Human Rights Commission has pledged to work towards restoring the livelihoods of residents of Bile community in Rivers State following concerns over persistent gas leakage. The Assistant Chief Investigation Officer of the NHRC, Zainab Hama, gave the assurance in Abuja on Wednesday during the presentation of a documentary on the community by Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa. Hammer said the Commission would examine the concerns raised by residents and work towards safeguarding their lives and livelihoods. Residents say the gas leakage has persisted despite visits by relevant agencies and environmental assessment. This is CBI News at noon. Let's take another break. The news continues after this. Welcome back. Time to bring you updates from the rest of the world. Ecuador's intelligence chief, Michel Sensi Kotungi, and his wife, Stephanie Holihan, have been killed in a helicopter crash in Kenya. 5 Americans were also killed, according to a U.S. State Department spokesperson. The crash occurred at about 9:13 a.m. local time in Samburu County, killing all 7 people on board. The Kenya Civil Aviation Authorities said the helicopter was on a scenic flight from the Lusaiba Wildfire Conservancy to the Ewaso-Nyiro River. Ecuador's presidential office and former President Guillermo Lasso have expressed condolences to the families of the victims. Liberia has agreed to accept up to 1,200 foreigners deported from the United States over the next year as Washington intensifies its crackdown on illegal migration. Information Minister Geraldine McPierre said an initial group of 20 deportees is expected to arrive today and will be received as guests. They said they would be free to leave or apply for asylum, adding that none were criminals or facing prosecution in the U.S. or Liberia. The deal is part of a wider U.S. policy of deporting migrants to third countries, with Ghana, Sierra Leone, Eswatini, and the Democratic Republic of Congo among African countries that have reached similar agreements with Washington. Canada and the United States are finalizing a highly anticipated trade deal, with President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Mark Carney describing the talks as a success. Trump said the proposed agreement would benefit U.S. farmers and manufacturers, while Carney said it would secure favorable terms for Canada's strategic sectors and provide greater certainty for bilateral trade. Trade negotiators held their third meeting in 3 days after Trump paused a new wave of tariffs on Canadian goods. Details of the agreement remain unclear.
Yeah, we had a very good conversation with the Prime Minister last night, and we've come to a deal with Canada. As you know, the 50% tariffs across the board were going on against Canada today, and they called yesterday and they gave us the points that we had to have. Very fair deal for both. The tariffs will be non-existent for our farmers. Our farmers were paying tremendous tariffs into Canada, and those tariffs are going to be totally eviscerated, down to zero.
Let us turn to business now, where the news coming from the stock market is not a palatable one. Adebola is standing by with a breakdown of the numbers and what they mean for you.
Customs Service, the Papa Area Command, has set a new record for its highest single-day revenue collection. Now, the command generated more than 28 billion naira in just 24 hours, surpassing its previous record by about 8 billion naira. The Customs Area Controller, Comptroller Emmanuel Oshoba, says it's not just about revenue figures, but about the contribution of the sector to Nigeria's economic development. We turn to the UK, where we see inflation accelerated in July as household energy bills push up prices. Inflation rose to 2.9% year-on-year from 2.6% in June, according to the Office for National Statistics. Now back home in Nigeria, at the NGX, the market closed on a red note, with all share index down by 0.36% and market capitalization closed at 155.44 trillion naira. And that's all on business. Back to TK for entertainment stories. Thank you, Adibola. And now to entertainment, where keeping up is practically a full-time job. Nigeria is once again on the MTV Video Music Awards nomination list, with Burna Boy and Tems among the nominees. While the awards make a notable category this year, Burna Boy has earned nominations too for Die Die, his collaboration with Shakira, in the Best Collaboration and Best Latin categories. Tems is also in the running with Rain Dance, a collaboration with rapper Dave, nominated for Best R&B. But there is one notable omission from these nominations. For the first time since 20, the category was introduced in 2023 and featured awards in 2024 and 2025, with Nigerian and other African artists competing for the honor. It is absent from this year's nomination, although MTV has not publicly given a reason, led by Madonna with 11 nominations, followed by Taylor Swift with 9. Ariana Grande and Sabrina Carpenter each have 7. 2026 MTV Video Music Awards will take place in Los Angeles. The ceremony will be first since 2020 without a dedicated Best African. And staying with music, there is more history to report. 5-time Grammy-winning Beninese musician has become the first African musician and the first Black African artist to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She was honored in Los Angeles on Tuesday, star becoming the 2,850th on the Hollywood Boulevard landmark. The honor recognizes a career spanning more than 4 decades and 18 albums. At the ceremony, of course, the Oscar-nominated actor Willem Dafoe and Recording Academy Chief Executive Harvey were among those paying tribute. She became emotional as she reflected on the milestone, saying Africans do not always realize what their music has given the world. And there is a Nigerian connection to the celebration. Latest album, Hope, featured collaborations with artists including Davido and Ira Star, alongside Pharrell Williams, Quavo, Now Rogers, and Charlie Wilson. And that's one for the history book. Up next is Sports Update with
Welcome to the Sports Update. We have another packed lineup this afternoon featuring a key commitment on the Formula One grid, breaking shockwaves in professional tennis, and a major transfer in the Premier League. We start in Formula One, where Williams Racing has recruited both drivers to its long haul after Carlos Sainz agreed to a multi-year contract extension. The 31-year-old Spaniard has committed its future to the team for the 2027 season and beyond. The agreement comes just 24 hours after Williams confirmed teammate Alex Albon signed his own extension through 2027. Despite recent performance struggles on the track, Sainz's decision locks in Williams' drivers' lineup as team's principal James Vowles pushes forward with the team's long-term rebuild. Turning Turning to tennis, former Wimbledon finalist Nick Kyrgios has been professionally suspended after failing a drug test. The International Tennis Integrity Agency announced the suspension after the 31-year-old tested positive for benzoyl glucone, a metabolite for cocaine, following a sample taken at an ATP 250 event in Mallorca. The suspension has been in effect since August the 4th. Kyrgios publicly owned up to the test on social media, issuing an apology and calling it a huge mistake. In football transfer news, Premier League side Brighton and Hove Albion have bolstered their attacking lineup with the signing of a striker, Promise David. The 25-year-old Canadian international arrives from Belgian side Royal Saint-Julien-Gelois on a season-long loan. The deal includes an obligation for Brighton to make the transfer permanent next summer for a fee in the region of £22 million. David, who represented Canada at the 2026 World Cup, adds significant physical presence and power to the Seagulls' front line. And that's your football and sports update. Back to you, Otobon.
All right, thank you so much, Mustafa. Now, shortly before we go, I'd like to throw a little banter there. The season is upon us. Mustafa, what's your take on the future of Liverpool? Are you guys going to walk alone this year?
Well, it's been a tough preseason. A few of our players have been injured. A few of them are coming back from injury. I mean, Isak is coming back. And we've gotten a couple of signings with a new manager, Iraola. And Iraola looks like the man to get us back to our winning ways since last season's rather poor showing. So, yes, I have faith. I have faith in Liverpool. Your Man United, what do you think about them?
All right, let's not go there. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you join us. That's all for today on CBI News at noon. For more breaking news, exclusive reports, and the latest updates from Nigeria, Africa, and around the world, visit cbinews.tv. You can also follow CBI News across all social media platforms at CBI News TV and CBI News 247 on YouTube for updates as they happen. I am Otobon Nkanta. Thank you for watching and have a good afternoon.
DR Congo Health Minister Roger Kamba has pushed back hard against a UN warning that the country's Ebola outbreak was killing one person every 30 minutes, arguing that the claim does not match what is actually in the government books. Speaking at a press conference in the capital and the footage obtained by CBI News, Kamba said the figures could be easily tested against the official death toll.
Avec à peu près un taux de suivi de 82% de cas contacts, mais nous sommes dans à peu près 55 zones de santé touchées qui correspondent à, en termes d'aires de santé, à 8% d'aires de santé.
Kamba then laid out his own numbers, saying more than 5,000 confirmed cases and around 2,370 deaths have been recorded in 3 months, putting the case fatality rate at roughly 47%. Grim, but a very different picture to a death every half hour on the clock. The epicenter remains Ituri in the east, with Kamba saying around 80% of cases in the province are concentrated in just 5 or 6 health zones. The outbreak is now even reshaping the school calendar. Education Minister Rai Somali said distance learning will initially be introduced in 18 health zones, considered at high risk ahead of the September 1 return. Children in the highest risk areas will remain at home, with lessons distributed in print and broadcast on local and community radio. The temporary system is initially planned to run for 4 weeks. Thousands of migrants are still stuck in Ceuta, weeks after the mass crossings from Morocco. And now Spain police unions say they are the ones left to pick up the pieces. On Tuesday, Spain People's Party, the PP, sat down with police unions and civil guard associations in the autonomous city after security forces called for urgent reinforcements and, frankly, a proper political fix to the migration crisis. Footage of details obtained by CBI News show union reps laying it out bluntly. Thousands of migrants remain in Ceuta following those mass arrivals from Morocco at the end of July, and the pressure on police, healthcare and other public services is growing by the day. Daniel Lopez, president of the Professional Police Union, the SPP, did not mince words. He called for much stronger diplomatic cooperation with Morocco to speed up returns of people.
Son acuerdos diplomáticos cuanto antes para precisamente retornar a todas las personas que se han mantenido aquí de manera irregular. Esa es la principal vía. Esto es un problema policial, pero que la solución no es policial, la solución es diplomática y es política. Entonces, hasta que de verdad no se lleguen a acuerdos con el Reino de Marruecos para que se puedan retornar cuanto antes estas personas, ahora mismo hacer una deportación de entre 8 y 10.000 personas es materialmente imposible que se haga antes de 2-3 años.
The sentiment was echoed by Carlos Prieto, Secretary General of the United Police Union of the SUP, who said that extraordinary measures are needed just to identify and process new arrivals. Officers and other public services, he said, are working under intense pressure with no let-up.
Todos los ciudadanos, ante una situación extraordinaria, se requieren medidas extraordinarias. Por resumirlo en algunas cuestiones, es la implantación de un CATE, de un centro de atención de tratamiento de extranjeros, para darle más celeridad a las identificaciones, a todas las reseñas. Tenemos que saber quién es toda esta gente que acaba de entrar, si conlleva o no un riesgo real para la población ceutí, para toda España y todo el espacio Schengen. Un refuerzo de las unidades extranjeras que están sobresaturadas. Ahora mismo todos nuestros compañeros están llevando a cabo una labor ímproba, tanto los de extranjería, los de seguridad ciudadana. Están muy tensionados los servicios públicos, no solamente los sanitarios se quejan, sino que las fuerzas y cuerpos de seguridad del Estado, que estamos en primera línea, somos los que estamos pagando el pato de toda esta situación, esta crisis territorial.
Unions criticize the conditions facing some personnel deployed to Ceuta, alleging officers have been forced to sleep on mattresses on the floor and share limited bathroom facilities. There were fights among them with machetes and knives, and when the police showed up, they all banded together to attack Rivero. According to the unions, the government delegation in Ceuta has not responded to requests for meetings, which is why they contrasted it so sharply with Tuesday talks with PP representatives and Ceuta President Juan Jesus Vivas. The Spanish government insists it has reinforced security and public services and is expanding temporary accommodation while calling for cooperation between national and local authorities. Seven Palestinians were buried on Wednesday after a strike on Gaza City port with funerals held at Al-Shifa Medical Complex. Footage shows relatives weeping and bidding farewell before funeral prayers and burial. Palestinian media said 6 people, including a child, were killed on Tuesday evening and 14 injured, with a toll later rising to 7. The Israeli military said it struck the Al-Shati area of Gaza City, claiming it targeted leaders of an elite Hamas unit during a meeting, including one person linked to the October 7, 2023 attack. The strike comes as diplomacy falters. In late July, U.S. President Donald Trump said the Board of Peace had agreed a plan for disarmament of Hamas, staged Israel withdrawal, and deployment of an international stabilization force, plus a new Palestinian police force. A meeting between U.S. envoy Jared Kushner and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly made no breakthrough, with Netanyahu insisting no idea of withdrawal until Hamas has disarmed. The war began after Hamas attacks on October 7, 2023 that killed 1,139 people, mostly Israeli civilians, with more than 200 taken hostage. Gaza health authorities say Israeli operations since have killed 73,407 Palestinians and injured 174,335. 9 people, including a 4-year-old child, died after fire tore through a building housing hotels on Free School Street in central Kolkata early on Wednesday. Footage shows police and emergency teams outside after the blaze was controlled, with the entrance cordoned off. A local first responder told CBI News guests tried to jump as flames took hold on the second floor of a guest house called Shika. At least 6 were injured and dozens rescued. Police said 5 of the dead were Bangladeshi nationals. Many died from smoke inhalation while sleeping. The area is packed with low-cost guest houses used by Bangladeshi visitors for medical travel. A similar fire in the same street in March 2022 killed a Bangladeshi woman. Local politician Kunal Pandey confirmed that there was no proper fire license, electric license, or civic paperwork. Police said the building lacked firefighting systems. The state now plans checks across hotels. Dozens of people gathered on Tuesday, August 18, in the vicinity of the Congress in Valparaiso to demonstrate, some in favor and others dead against greyhound racing, while deputies inside debated whether to ban or regulate the activity in Chile. Footage obtained by CBI News shows both sides making plenty of noise. On one side, the contingent advocating a ban holding placards reading "Free Greyhounds," and "It is not a race, it is a life fleeing suffering." On the other, supporters of the races blowing trumpets and holding up images of dogs mid-race, while carabineros kept a watchful eye on both marches. At its heart, this is an argument about what the dog actually is. Activists opposed to the races argue the practice turns the dog into an object of economic performance, and that when a greyhound ceases to be competitive, many end up abandoned, euthanized, or retrained to become hunting dogs. One of the most powerful voices there belonged to Alejandra Hidalgo, owner of a greyhound that had previously raced and had been a victim of animal abuse. Her pet, she said, is her only reason to be there.
Se vota el proyecto de prohibición de las carreras de perros en Chile y al mismo tiempo también hay un proyecto de regulación, pero nosotros obviamente vamos por la prohibición, así que se ha sumado harta gente, en otras oportunidades no fue tan masivo y esta vez hay mucha presión social y creemos que vamos a salir victoriosos.
On the other side, Christian Larenas, national president of the Corporación de Galgos de Pista de Chile, defended the continuation of the activity and maintains that in different cities across the country, people back the stance.
Estamos aquí a lo largo de todo Chile, estamos de Antofagasta a Coyhaique, hoy día hay gente desde Copiapó hasta Licanray empujando el proyecto de regulación que obviamente va a dar un estándar muy superior a lo que estamos haciendo ya. y también pensamos que el proyecto de prohibición debe rechazarse porque es un proyecto totalmente discriminatorio y que se ha fundado en solamente un discurso y no ha podido probar nada.
The Chamber of Deputies also confirms the bill will return to the Environment Committee for article-by-article review, as it is the subject of amendments. Likewise, deputies rejected by 50 votes, in favor 68 against, and 10 abstentions. A second bill that sought to regulate dog racing instead of prohibiting it. In Chile itself, the sport is concentrated in rural and semi-rural areas and is estimated to involve thousands of dogs. Though there is no official national registry, one of the very things regulators say makes welfare monitoring so difficult. At least 23 people have been killed and 5 injured after a head-on collision between a minibus and a lorry in southern Brazil. It happened early Wednesday on a highway in Ipiranga, Paraná. The minibus belonged to the health department of Imbituva and was carrying patients and companions to hospitals in Greater Curitiba. Most of the dead were on the minibus, including the lorry driver. 5 survivors were taken to hospital in Ponta Grossa. Brazil's Federal Highway Police say early findings suggest the lorry crossed into the opposite lane before the crash. The cause remains under investigation. Emergency crews, police, firefighters, and forensic teams attended the scene, and the highway was temporarily closed. Imbituva has declared official mourning and is offering psychological support to families. Brazil records more than 47,000 road deaths a year, ranking it 5th globally. Federal highway data shows over 1.6 million accidents between 2007 and 2017, with 83,498 deaths. During the 2026 carnival period alone, 130 people died on federal roads, the highest since 2020. A shipment of around 80 tons of humanitarian aid from China arrived in Colombia on Tuesday to support survivors of the 7.4 magnitude earthquake that struck on 10th August. Images show the Air China aircraft landing at Bogota El Dorado Airport as workers unload the consignments which left Beijing early on the 18th of August. The delivery includes 1,900 tents, 7,000 blankets, 15 water purification plants, 200 solar lamps, and 20 diesel generators for basic needs. China's ambassador Zhu Jinyang said the aid will go to Val del Cauca and be distributed with the governor's office. He praised close coordination between the Chinese embassy, the Colombian Foreign Ministry, and the National Unit for Disaster Risk Management.
Tenemos el placer de recibir aquí en Bogotá, en el aeropuerto El Dorado, un avión charter que trae la asistencia humanitaria de viene de China. Es una distancia grande, más de 17,000 kilómetros de distancia, más de 21 horas de vuelo, pero nos sentimos cercanos al pueblo colombiano.
Colombia sits on a Pacific ring of fire where the Nazca and South American plates meet. Choco and Val del Cauca have a history of major quakes, including the 1999 Armenia quake that killed over 1,000 people. The latest epicenter was San Jose del Palma in Choco at depths of around 110 kilometers. The quake has left 304 dead and 4,538 injured nationwide. China's shipment is part of wider international relief totaling 283.2 tons, with support also from El Salvador, Mexico, Chile, Peru, Paraguay, and India.
360 on CBI News. We're broadcasting live from the nation's commercial hub, Lagos. On the radar today, Nigeria has entered the 2027 campaign season, but beyond the politics lies a more fundamental question. How will the state of the Nigerian economy shape the choices Nigerians make at the ballot box? The government says the reforms are working, but can Nigerians feel the recovery in their pockets? And as calls for restructuring return to the national conversation, are Nigerians asking for a different government or a different Nigeria? To help us unpack these issues and more is my guest, Akin Fatunke. He is a Nigerian public affairs analyst, a communication consultant, and the MD CEO of Chronicler Associate. He's also a chartered accountant and a former public and government affairs manager at Mobil Oil Nigeria. Good to have you in the studio, Akin.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Beautiful studio.
Thank you.
New, everything about it is looking new, and may this platform thrive.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, let's get right into the business. In 2023, precisely May 29, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made a bold statement during his, opening speech. He said subsidy is gone. Now, that statement was greeted by a flurry of reactions, from applause to criticisms. I'll lean towards the side of the critics because I'm a Nigerian. I'm a common Nigerian, if you like to put me in the category. People were saying, listen, this sort of big statement would need a multi-stakeholder consultations and mapping. Do we have enough palliatives on the ground to cushion the rippling effect of that big decision, even though we had some sort of insight that the previous administration under Muhammadu Buhari was already tilting towards, taking out the subsidies, so to speak. But fast forward to today, the Minister for Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Taiwo Oyedele, made a presentation yesterday for something he captioned Federal Government Reform Scorecard. Now, we don't know what has occasioned that decision. Why are they looking at, how far they're fared? But you are the expert here. I'd like to binge on your ingenuity. How can you, first of all, access the economy 3 years into this administration?
Next question, Chinyere. And as somebody who has been in the oil and gas for close to about 30 years, what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu pronounced on May 29 of 2023 was absolutely nothing new or strange. From the flurry of what the organized private sector, oil and gas reforms, including, if I choose a benchmark, President Olusegun Obasanjo up to Jonathan had prescribed. And that is the fact that we were running a ruinous subsidy system that was not only putting a big hole in the Nigerian pockets, but some have also taken the lives of Nigerian citizens, including my professional colleagues.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, yes. In an attempt to want to dig deep to try and open the can of worms, all stakeholders, including military personnel in the Niger Delta, you hear something like there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. People will say, look, I can't see any end. I better go drill the tunnel. Look, let's get back to this. How do I see the economy has fared? If I speak from the perspective of a developmental economist, I would say yes, somehow, somewhat, the leakages, attempts were made to begin to plug some of those leakages. And it was going to be like a surgery. You are not going to undergo surgery and you expect that it's going to be painless. It's going to be painful. Absolutely no doubt about that. So when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said subsidy gone. I know that whether it was Atiku Abubakar's PDP or Gregory Obi's Labour at that time, also said yes, this was just going to go, but we are going to do it in a different fashion. So do I think 3 years down the line, we have been able to make savings? And I begin to hear issues of savings, we are making money. I know for sure that the issue of cash flow may not necessarily be what you call taking loans that will have used for subsidies that will have gone down the drain, than still maintaining this loan and increasing this loan, and rather than it going to be used for subsidies, it's now going to be used for the commanding heights, infrastructure, subnational monies in the pocket of subnationals, and so many other reforms. So on the credit side, like we say in my profession, accountancy, yes, we are beginning to see stabilization. We are beginning to see elements of foreign exchange, which also went gaga, because when we talk about the reforms, apart from the subsidy, foreign exchange reforms, tax reforms, local governments attempt reforms, police reforms, you begin to see little bits and pieces, but still not getting to the bottom line. Again, developmental economics will tell you that you cannot plant a corn yesterday and expect it to grow. I'm not going to say tomorrow. That will be an exaggeration. Expect it to grow in the next 1 week. So you have to go suffering. Now, I think basically that we were moved and skewed in the right direction. However, what was lacking was the absolute trust that this Surgeon General coming into the theater and chewing gum and all that.
When you say trust, you mean from Nigerians to the president?
Yes.
Okay.
And the president himself and his government endangering what will make people to trust you. So if at the end of the day, you are asking people to tighten their belts, are we seeing that you are also tightening your belt? Are we seeing that those who surround you are also tightening their belts? Because we cannot be talking of reforms which directionally is the way to go. Because if we didn't go that way, which is what Taiwo Oyedele,
right.
By the way, my professional colleague, I remember sitting on your seat and then interviewing him back in the day when I was the, host of Icon on Air, and I like his depth and I like his intellect. And one of the things that we always say in that our profession is that you cannot manage what you don't measure.
Right.
So coming up and then coming to talk about the scorecards, listening to you, listening to me, there's hunger, there's anger.
Right.
I cannot afford this, I cannot afford that. He's now trying to say, yes, subsidy was removed adequately. We should, and this is where I will have to shake the table a little, but I don't think I'm going to get a rose from you, get a rose from majority of Nigerians when I say this. It was not only inevitable, and the social safety nets that we are saying should have been in place. We've been talking about this in 30 years. Time will not permit me to. We've been talking about it in 30 years. If you don't have the capacity and you are growing in population and you are having SDG goals, there are 17 of them, all looking red. Okay, well, as of 2023, you either will have to pull the plug or you continue so that generations unborn will have to bear the brunt. Now,
okay.
Let me now say something. When Mr. President made that statement, he was making that statement within a federation or we are assuming that we are running a federation, and a federation is federal, executive, also within federal states, and also the local government.
Subnationals.
Now, in making that statement, he could easily, maybe in faith, making that statement because he still believes we're in a federation. I don't think we're in a federation, and I tell you that why I think we are not in a federation. Because he could have had that view. The state governors, the state governments may not be on the same page with him. The local government may not be on the same page with him. Because if we are running and lying on a constitution that we think is federal, but everything about it is unitary, you're not going to get far. And so if he has gone to the market and said, look, I'm going to do policies, it's going to be a pain for some time, it was terrible. And then he came home with some relative harvest, which the subnationals are now supposed to be able to help with. The federal does not own land. The state governors own land. And so if we are still talking about double-digit inflation that is heading towards the north, we expect that there should be a convergence. So, and that convergence, if it's not coming, then you can't help. So I give you one example. One example would be a state like Abia State. In my mind, we have one of the most performing governors, or in Enugu State, Lagos State, as an example, and perhaps majority of the Southwest. But by the time we begin to move into the Middle Belt, so let us talk about security issues, and where we have arable land, and these monies come to these subnationals, and the first thing that you are going to hear is that you are going to be doing mass marriages and all that. It will not trickle down. There were force majeures. There was this constitution itself that is lying to itself. There is the directional to say, this is what I want to do. Yes, I know that the poorest of the poor, one of the first few things I'm going to do is look at our tax reforms. Right. And the poorest of the poor will not pay taxes while we expand. So when you now put all these things in the jambalaya, depending on what side you stand, I concede there is pain. I concede that the pain is not something that is going to go away within a short term. And I also concede to the fact that because you are not doing things with character and example, because we are doing things that the whole world, for instance, as low a hunger fruit, as say, for instance, you have a convoy where you have 100 cars, 200 cars, and stuff like that. Would that make sense? As a surgeon who has come into the theater.
I may have to butt in there for a minute, Mr. Aki.
You need to be able to balance it. Directionally, it is the way to go, but we are not running a federation.
Right. So you have spoken
the
copiously.
Way it should be run.
Obviously, you have spoken copiously about that big statement and all of the appurtenances, in a manner of speaking. But from what you have said, what I can infer is, did the president do a proper SWOT and personal analysis before making that decision? Because you have also said that he had assumed that we had a unitary system, and what we have is, in total separation from, his earlier thoughts, so to speak. But that's not what we are concerned about as Nigerians. Because if the macro figures are looking good, it's in levels. We have the macro, we have the micro, meso, and then nano. We are even poorer today as against 2023. I used to buy spaghetti for 600 naira because, at CBI News, we are very human angle. So aside all of the statistics, how does it translate to our buying power? And that's where I'm headed. Do you think that this administration has the political agency to have made such a big statement, and then, given the president's antecedent as a political juggernaut, so to speak, we haven't seen much of that translate to the common man on the street, and that's the huge challenge. Where is the disconnect, in your opinion?
In my opinion, you are right. And as economists, we also talk about foregone alternatives. What that means is, whatever action that you have taken or you refuse to take has consequences. And Taiwo Oyedele was making that point that I think whoever is hungry and angry will not want to listen to. I mean, what is it that I need to do now? Talking about SWOT. My view is that the president, given his antecedents and his experience in finance and working in conglomerates, has been part and parcel of SWOTs that never, you will not have the political will to be able to fathom. Because very few people will take that bold step to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to try and halt the velocity of the fall. Has he therefore done a SWOT? I will say the T in the SWOT, which is a big elephant in the room, which is the threat, was that if something was not done that day, if something was not done 6 months before, as Muhammadu Buhari had, of blessed memory, had envisaged and had done an appropriation and said, look, subsidy was technically gone. Even beyond that, up to the time of Jonathan, the opportunity cost of continuing all that was that our hole was getting bigger and our capacity to continue to borrow became impossible. So we are going the way of Bangladesh, we are going the way of Mozambique back in the day. So if you ask me, the SWOT is known. But I also agree with you that if I am going to be asking you, I still come and say that you are going to go without food for a whole day, I must be seen to also join with you to be able to do that. But to the extent that I am not doing that, I will not believe you. And why should I believe you that 1 year or 2 years after you made such a big statement, huge statement, to all what we know, I mean, some nationals are having more money, well, whatever they do with some of the money, and then we are going to be going and be talking about a health fund, whereby the children or the poorest of the poor at least starting to make sure at least they can assess what we used to enjoy in times past. That would not have been now.
So
if you
may
make
have
that
to hold
statement,
your laurels there. Let's take a short break. Allow me to invite you to follow us across all social media platforms. CBI News has very interesting programs for you. You can only binge on them when you follow us on our social media platforms, like, comment, and share. Inside 360 returns after this short break. Stay. For the benefit of those who have just joined in, this is Inside 360 coming to you live from our Lagos studio at CBI News. I'm Chinyere Igwe Odo, and I have my analyst here with me. We're considering the federal government reform scorecard, which the Minister for Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Taiwo Oyedele, spoke expressly yesterday in Abuja. And trust me, it's been met with several reactions. I mean, Nigerians are saying, why are we having to conversate around these things when we don't even have the buying power, when we can afford school fees, we can pay rent, the price of fuel and gas, cooking gas, is at an all-time high. And let me quickly run through these figures from the Minister of Finance. So he said yesterday that between June 2023 and December 2025, the federal government has saved 15.8 trillion naira, such humongous sum. And that from that sum, 5.4 trillion goes to the federal government, 10.4 trillion for state and subnationals. The question is, if you have asked Nigerians to, just like my guest rightly inferred, be patient, because I mean the surgery is quite a process. Most times when we have government come on stream, they tend to play the blame game on previous administrations, how they inherited checkered, checkered economy, if that passes for it, or if that's the right language for it. But listen, it's been 3 years into this administration, and should Nigerians be more patient? And how long more should we be patient? My guest is the expert here. He'll be helping us talk extensively on the federal government reforms. And then something that the minister also said yesterday, Mr. Akin, that the federal government is not going back on these reforms. It sort of sounds like not too good. It sounds a bit untoward, because if the reforms are not sort of anti-people, then why aren't you considering shifting base or ground, so to speak?
Again, the very big elephant in that room is the issue of trust. I keep on saying trust, trust, trust. If I trust that I am going to fasten my belt, I'm going to suffer for some time, and I see you suffering at the same time, it doesn't take away the suffering, but it gives me some kind of element of hope that we are going to get there together. But if you are asking me to tighten, electricity bills are high, housing is going on, we are not in a federating unit the way they should, and then you are still asking to tighten belt, I will look at you and think of you as an evil person. Now, in thinking of you as an evil person, please, let's get something straight. Yes, you may be that evil person, but continue to do what you do. I should not be expecting a different result, because that therefore means my children and my children's children are still going to find a way to pay back. So it's like a wiper wipes to the right, wipes to the left. Now, when this was done, one of the things that was envisaged when you talked about the fact that you should do your SWOT, you should put some structures in place, is social safety nets. Okay? So attempts were made to now then say the poorest of the poor should be given something, and then we saw a lot of corruption in that area, you remember. Because we do not have the data print of who are the poor and the poorest of the poor during COVID. That came very glaringly. My point is, in 2020, 2021, if you zoom 2020, 2021 to where we are right now, in the way and the structure that the economy has gone macroeconomically, and COVID came so devastatingly, and it affected us like it affected all other countries, it won't be as bad. Let's get that straight. The subnationals and the others that took 10 trillion,
right?
10 trillion, what have they done with the money? Are they structurally structured to bring wealth, like the federal is doing with NGX? Are they structurally such that FDI is beginning to find its way and say, look, I think I have a feeling that this is going to be an economy that should grow, irrespective of, the bottom of the pyramid that you are still having a little bit here and there. So I am saying, yes, inflation is not come down to the level that you and I will be able to say our food inflation. You should be able to go to the market here and do what you need to do, basically because amongst so many other things, we have security issues, we have farmers' herders that has devastated, and people who have brought in their funds to try and see how to help. Many of them were killed or kidnapped. So how are you now going to try and be straight in a rough jacket? So I agree. Yeah, I agree. So, and I concede that Nigerians should take their choice. If you believe that this is a lot of suffering, so let's go elsewhere. So let's open the tap.
Right.
Now, I am also seeing a situation where opposition are saying that we are going to stop. We are going to stop some of the reforms. Welcome. So let's Nigerians now try that. Stop the reforms, starting from tax. The poorest of the poor should still find a way to be paying tax. Those who are living larger than life will be able to go away without tax.
Right.
And then you bring in, because economics is not something that you just do like a magic wand. I also hear that you say the reforms that we have in the FX are going to have a multiple window. You are going to be printing more money and all that. And then you decide that you are going to kick the can down the road. Look, yeah, I will believe you if you have a timeline, which I think I agree with, that between so-so period and so-so period, food prices will be coming down. That does not lie with the federal. That lies with the subnationals. That lies with subnationals who will now then say, look, apart from food, what about security? There are quite a number of things that the local governments should be doing in terms of primary education, in terms of birth and death, in terms of being able to measure ourselves. If this is not getting there, then you are stuck and choked. So what should you do? Okay, so reverse the whole thing. Let's reverse. If we reverse the whole thing, so let's go back to making Naira 1-to-1. Let's reverse and then say that food should not cost less.
Right.
When you know that in the in-betweens, and then maybe you also have a knack to say that maybe you'll be able to put your hand on a pin, and then insecurity will go off. Meaning, a part of the reasons why we have insecurity is man-made, obviously. For quest for power. So if it's going to be my turn, so the rest will now begin to agitate. If it's going to be your turn, the rest will begin to agitate. We've seen some of these things. So we do not have what I would describe as a united Nigeria where, in my view, things will work. And if it is not going to be a united Nigeria, then what are we saying?
Let me
Nigeria
invite you,
must be negotiable.
Let me invite you quickly to speak to what some Nigerians are saying.
All right.
When the Minister for Finance released these figures, they're saying that, look, the Tinubu administration has taken a narcissistic approach, looking at their posture, the be-all, do-all government. Because if you had invited the people to say, I inherited a checkered economy, give me some time to fix it. It's not a magic wand. It will take a bit of time, but we'll get there. Now we have the proceeds 3 years down the line, and there's no multi-stakeholder mapping approach. For something as sensitive as the economy, he has given it a rather prosaic approach, distributing money to state and subnationals. There's no one who is keeping tabs on where these monies are being in terms of expenditure from the states and local government. The people are not happy. Did you consult us to know what the pain points and the gray areas are? What's your stance?
Good question. While I am not going to say that I am a spokesperson for APC or the president, in fairness, I think over time, statements have been made that this is hard. I feel your pain, but we just have to do this.
Is that
what
enough?
was lacking? Yeah. What was lacking is we just have to do it. And I jump into it with you, and the people see me that I'm doing exactly the same thing. I am not multiplying MDAs and agencies of government. I am making sure that I control my expenditure. I ensure that, for instance, now I should not be budgeting for multi-billions to travel, and everybody is going on an entourage. I get myself as lean as, for instance, in all honesty, the way a Peter Obi would have structured himself.
Are you canvassing for Peter Obi?
Personally.
Is that what it is?
I am not canvassing for Peter Obi, nor am I canvassing for the president. As a developmental economist, I must be able to grow. So a Peter Obi and the opposition must come and say what they need, what are you going to do differently. If you are not going to be able to tell me that, they said, the devil I know better than the evil that I don't know. I was only using Peter Obi in terms of his penchant for being frugal. But not being frugal will not put food in my tummy. In an expanding economy, I must also be thinking like a Bola Tinubu administration is thinking. What should we do here? How should we look at education? What are some of the things that we need to begin to plug, which is not going to be fixed in a jiffy? Now, you also made a statement, and I think I agree with you, prosaic. When the Almighty Being said there has to be day and night, he meant it has to be day and night. And none of us will find a way to put ourselves in there. And when, according to some of the things that we read, that there was going to be a time of famine and a time of plenty, and that a flood is coming. It was like a Noah in an ark. A flood is coming, that if we don't get ourselves put together, we are going to get ourselves into a Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, what should therefore happen? I believe that we should have a structured social safety security system, which was given to some ministers, and then we started seeing a lot of hula baloo, as we say in there. Well, the box still stops on the president's table. Right. When you catch somebody like that, what are you doing? Why should you not be prosecuting them? Now, that's on that side. On that other side, yes, there's proceeds from crime. EFCC, he just made a statement that EFCC, proceeds of crimes, unpaid dividends, and all that should go back into NEL fund. That is saying something. Whereas it's not going to come to you almost immediately, but at least you begin to see some of the reforms that we are seeing in fintech. You are going to see the reforms that we are seeing, wealth creation to manufacturing outfit, that if it was not done, we would have been in the gorge. As much as I agree that we should be looking at the federal, and we should be looking at the federal, and I've just told you that I've not seen 100% living by example, right. Okay? We should also direct our attention to the other federating units, including the fact that because we don't trust that the electoral systems must be such that it must be one man, one vote. It should be such that it should not just be, people say we are a one-party state. No, we cannot be a one-party state because we have so many parties. But if we have the other parties that are not able to gather themselves together, subdue their greed, that everybody wants to be president and all that, unlike what this president did at a particular point in time, say, look, okay, it's not my turn. Let's also have that. Right. I am looking forward to a situation where, like Atiku has just said, I don't know if you have read it, he just said that he's going to reverse the subsidy. Okay, so great idea, and everybody's going to be happy. When I was going to start my primary school and I saw my teacher with a cane, if I got somebody that would tell me that I should not go to school, that's the kind of person I want. But will that not have a consequence?
Thank you so much, Mr.
If you are going to remove bring back the subsidy, how is that going to be funded? You borrow more money, you bring it to print more money. Those are the critical questions that one should be asking.
One of the things that is quite outstanding about you is you are quite a repository of knowledge, and your forensic brilliance needs to be studied. We need to find some other time to bring you on the program because, listen, our viewers are already having so much fun having you today. Thank you so much for coming to the program.
You know something?
Tell me.
What you have just displayed is called emotional intelligence. How to be able to tell somebody to go to where you want that person to go and the person didn't want to go. That is leadership. And that exactly is what we should be prescribing. That, look, it's a hard thing, whatever it is, but show example. Communicate more. Say it in English. Say it in vernacular. Put it in songs. Do a lot of so many other things. Let people know that you are feeling them. One person that I knew did this, which was like a hard sell, was an Awolowo. Awolowo was going barefoot into places like Gberamatu, and people were going to be stoning him. Why do you want to give us education? You want to come and take our wives from the farms? But he kept at it, showed the example, took his children through the public schools, his guard, his cook, then in Cross River, from now Akwa Ibom State, and his driver, made sure the kind of education that he gave to his children, we was able to do that. That is the character. That's what we are not seeing here.
Thank you.
And that's what is not bringing in the kind of trust. So thank you very much for your very kind words that will make me do things I ordinarily would not want to do, but I find myself doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. My guest has been Mr. Akin Fatunke. He is a public affairs analyst and a financial expert. On that note, we draw the curtains on Inside 360 today. Remember, the programs comes to you Monday through Friday. And just in case you missed the weekly edition, don't worry, we have something packed for you every Sunday here on CBI News. Do well to follow us across all our social media platforms, like, comment, and share. From all of us here in the studio, thank you so much for watching. See you again.
Many thanks for joining Headline Trends here on CBI News. From billions saved at the pump to thousands of naira spent just to stay alive. And from visa rumors to military alliances suddenly looking a little less certain. There's a quite, big competing for attention in the headlines. But beyond the figures and official statements, some of these stories raise questions that are, a little harder to brush aside. So let's get into the trends making the headlines. I am Otobo Nkanta, and together, let's make sense of the day's biggest stories. Now, first up, the fuel subsidy debate is back in the spotlight. Taiwo Oyedele says the removal of petrol subsidies saved Nigeria 15.8 trillion naira in just 30 months. Now, between June 2023 and December 2025. Now, that sounds like an enormous fiscal win for government. But here's where the conversation gets interesting. When government says it has saved trillions, Nigerians naturally want to know what exactly has that saving translated into for them. Because for many households, subsidy removal is still remembered less by the trillions saved and more by the cost of transportation, food, and everyday living. And speaking of cost, Nigerians can no longer ignore doctors are asking the federal government to subsidize insulin as the price has reportedly climbed to around 25,000 naira. Now, for someone who needs insulin to stay alive, this isn't simply another case of rising prices. It is the difference between treatment and going without it. So the question becomes, when the cost of staying alive becomes unaffordable, is subsidy really a luxury or a necessity? Meanwhile, there is some clarification on Nigeria's relationship with South Africa. The South African envoy has dismissed reports that Nigerians are facing visa restrictions, saying there is no such restriction on Nigerian applicants. That clarification comes at a sensitive time with tensions around migration and the treatment of foreigners in South Africa continuing to generate concern. So while the visa door remains open, the bigger question may be whether the diplomatic relationship itself is becoming harder to navigate. And now from diplomacy to something considerably more serious, military escalation. NATO says it is prepared to defend its allies and will do what is necessary amid reports that Iran may be considering strikes against U.S. targets in Europe. And that changes the equation, because if a conflict that began as a confrontation involving Iran, Israel and the United States starts touching NATO territory, the question is no longer simply who is fighting whom, but who gets pulled into the fight next. And finally, that uncertainty is already being felt thousands of kilometers away in South Korea. Seoul is reportedly alarmed after Donald Trump ordered a scaling back of U.S. military operations with South Korea, reviving questions about the strength of a security alliance that has lasted 72 years. And perhaps that is the uncomfortable part of the story. South Korea has relied on the United States for decades as a critical security partner. But when Washington begins changing the terms of the relationship, even an alliance that has survived for 72 years can suddenly start looking less certain. And that's the size of it. We continue to track the stories so you don't have to chase them. I am Otobo Nkanta for CBI News.
Hello, it's CBI Market Pulse. I'm Adebola Adedugba. We begin with news on the money market. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and the Debt Management Office have suspended this week's Treasury bill auction after the Apex Bank raised 4.69 trillion naira through open market operation sales. Now, the move signals a coordinated effort to manage excess liquidity to reduce pressure on inflation and foreign exchange market. The large OMO sale attracts strong investors who seek high yield, short-term instruments. The National Insurance Commission, NICOM, has announced successful completion of the 12-month insurance sector recapitalization exercise. The verified outcome of the exercise, according to NICOM, indicate that 43 insurance and reinsurance companies successfully met the prescribed minimum capital requirements. However, 8 insurance companies that submitted evidence of compliance shortly before the statutory deadline are currently undergoing final verification by the Commission. OPEC Plus has approved an increase in oil production quota by 188,000 barrels per day beginning in September. The move marks the final phase of reversing voluntary output cuts by 8 member countries, despite concerns over export disruptions in the Gulf, production challenges involving Russia, and geopolitical tensions with Iran. On a global business scene, shares in Elon Musk's SpaceX tumbled after the company's first ever earnings report revealed a sharp increase in spending on artificial intelligence AI, unsettling investors. While the firm's quarterly revenue nearly doubled to $7.8 billion, up from a year earlier, its spending surged to $18.3 billion, more than 6 times the level recorded a year ago. The bulk of the expenditure directed towards artificial intelligence AI. Overall, SpaceX posted a net loss of $143 million in 3 months to June and a loss of $2 billion in the first half of the year. And global oil prices spiked on July 8, 2026, with Brent crude trading at $78.56, while West Texas Intermediate WTI stood at $74.52 per barrel amid renewed supply concerns. Earlier in the week, oil prices had slumped after U.S. President Donald Trump cancelled planned military strikes on Iran, raising hope this could avert the ongoing conflict. The White House has said negotiation with Tehran would resume, but Iran denied that formal talks had been arranged, leaving markets uncertain, resulting to the spike in oil prices. Let's now connect with Farouk Hassan, Portfolio Manager at ICO Capital, for his insight on the business stories.
Thank you, Debola, and I am glad to be here. As regards the events this week, one thing that stood out for me happens to be the CBN's liquidity management. After mopping up about 5 trillion in OMO, that signals confidence with regards to liquidity management. On the part of the NICOM recapitalization, and what that signals to me will be possible consolidation if that's not met by the deadline. For global equities, SpaceX earnings were doubled as AI expenditure continued to bite into their margins, which I believe continues to direct investors towards AI driven stocks. For the local markets, with the NGX closing about 0.12% at the end of this week, that continues to signal investors' confidence in the market, as I strongly believe they continue to digest, the H1 results.
And that was Farouk Hassan, Portfolio Manager at ICO Capital. We appreciate your insights. We head now to the floor of the Nigerian Exchange, NGX, where the market closed on a green note. ASI on 6th August in the green by 0.12 basis points, while close of trade for 7th August, market cap stood at 158.48 trillion naira. Value closed at 23.18 billion naira. Activities and trade volume accounted for 1.40 billion. And that's your weekly dose of 5 minutes business brief. Don't forget to connect with us on social media. We are at CBI News TV, and on YouTube we are at CBI News 247. Many thanks for watching. I'm Adibola Adiduba. It's bye for now.
Good day, sports fans. It's Thursday, August the 20th, and this is your CBI Sports Update. Everything you need to know in sports before your coffee cools down. We lead off with a massive £52 million shocker in the transfer market. Netherlands international Tianne Reinders has officially completed a permanent move from Manchester City to Saudi Pro League side Al Qaysar after just 1 year at the Etihad. The 28-year-old midfielder inked a 5-year deal to play under former Liverpool boss Brendan Rodgers. Reinders made 50 appearances for City last term, but with Rodri off to Barcelona and Bernardo Silva joining Real Madrid, City's midfield overhaul is officially in overdrive. Moving fast into the rest of today's top headlines. Financial alarms are ringing in golf. Live Golf CEO Scott O'Neill says he remains optimistic about the league's long-term future, but admits they're facing a very compressed timeline to secure new funding. With the season concluding early in Indianapolis, under a slashed prize purse and next week's team championship officially cancelled, the breakaway circuit is facing a massive identity crisis. Over in Nigeria, the government is stacking up another disastrous stretch for the national football teams. The Senate has officially summoned the heads of the National Sports Commission and the NFF into an emergency meeting in Abuja following the Super Eagles' failure to qualify for the 2026 World Cup and the Super Falcons missing out on the 2027 World Cup. Finally, on a solemn note from the sports media world, ESPN founder Bill Rasmussen, the visionary who launched the world's first 24-hour cable sports news network back in 1979, has passed away at the age of 93. Now a quick timeout, family. If you're digging these 5-minute daily rundowns, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a morning drop. Today's question for the comment section. Manchester City just cleared out Reinders, Rodri and Bernardo Silva. Are they clearing space for a mega transfer, or is this Enzo Maresca in full rebuilding mode? Drop your hot takes in the comments. I'll be reading and replying to the best ones today. Time for Under the Radar, where we look past the pitch and break down the critical sports science and health stories shaping the game. Frightening scenes out of Germany this week after Bayern Munich star Jamal Musiala collapsed twice in just 4 days during preseason matches against RB Leipzig and Heidenheim. Musiala has since confirmed he's dealing with easily treatable absence seizures caused by an underlying neurological dysfunction. Here are 3 things that you need to know about what this means for his career. Unlike tonic-clonic seizures, absence seizures cause brief, sudden lapses in awareness, often lasting just 10 to 15 seconds. On the pitch, this looks like a sudden freeze, posture loss, or collapse, but consciousness remains almost immediate. According to a neurologist, absence seizures are highly manageable with standard medical treatment because they don't cause long-term physical damage or neurological deterioration. They are not considered a career-ending condition for elite athletes. Harry Kane spoke out today emphasizing that the entire Bayern Munich dressing room is rallying behind him. With full medical clearance from specialists, Musiala remains cleared to play while his medical team fine-tunes his treatment plan. A scary moment on screen, but all signs point to a safe, managed return for one of world football's brightest talents. Before we get you out of here, here's what you need to lock on to this weekend. Live Golf Indianapolis Round 1 Tee Times kick off today at the club at Caterham Hills. Keep an eye on John Rahm looking to seal the individual championship title. Plus, keep an eye on early Premier League weekend press conferences for the latest transfer deadline updates. That's our 300 seconds. I'm Mustafa Nimashaun, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.